Okay, we're going to skip and move on.
Take any more time. If anybody wants to make a donation, just drop by one of the tables. And anything you can do to help to finance our future events would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, and have a great time.
Of course, if you haven't met him already, this is Jim Woods. Him and his wife Lisa lead the McFan organization here in Medina County, a grassroots organization aimed at preserving all that's great about this country. Not just talking about it, but doing something about it, right?
Come on, Dad!
Today's a prime example. And I'll tell you what, really, if you haven't already done it, please take a moment to stop over here in the tent, sign up and get on their mailing list, their email list if you're willing to give us your email, because the truth of the matter is, just as we spoke earlier, 2010 stopped the bleeding. 2012 is when you start the healing. And in order to make 2012 a success, we're going to have volunteers on the ground who are willing to do the work to make it happen, to carry it full circle. Now, Ian, if you grab those buckets, we'll draw for a few more raffle prizes. We've got 8 prizes that we're going to draw, I guess 7 prizes we're going to draw for, and basically I'm just going to tell you the number of the bucket and the name that we're drawing as the winner. So first, for prize number 8, Ed Mack. Prize number 8, Ed Mack. Prize number 10. Prize number 10. We don't have a name, so here's the number. 190-369. 190-369. Okay, we'll wait 1 second here. We've got a winner? All right, we've got the winner there. That's prize number 10. Prize number 10. Prize number 9. Prize number 9 goes to Sharon Rapine. Rapine, R-E-P-I-N-E. Sharon Rapine. All right, we've got a phone number, so we'll give her a call here. There is a young lady who's waited very patiently tonight, who's traveled a long way from Cincinnati, not just Ann, but Rebecca Heimlich from the Americans for Prosperity. We've delayed her presentation several times to try to keep the schedule for Jim Quinn, so be ready, because it'll just be a second here. All right, this is prize number 11, Karen Bin. Is it Karen Bin?
She's over there.
So we have the winner, Karen. And it's prize number 11. And we do appreciate your patience, because the evening went a little longer than what we suspected it would. Norma Jesse wins the prize number 6. Prize number 6.
And then I signed a couple of...
Yeah, we already did it. Yep.
I'm alright. And I'm in the mission, and I'm happy about it.
Number 12, prize number 12 goes to Norma Jesse as well. So prize number 12, Norma Jesse. And finally, prize number 7. Prize number 7 goes to Norma Jesse. Prize number 7 goes to Norma Jesse as well. It's her lucky night. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for your patience. We know we're going a little over schedule. But at this time, I'd like to present to you Rebecca Heimlich from Americans for Prosperity. She's the state director of our organization. She's an attorney, a former assistant prosecutor, very accomplished, I believe, Vanderbilt Law School. And here she is to talk to you tonight. So, Rebecca.
Are there still brownies over there?
Thank you. It's great to be back in Medina. Normally I travel here on a bus, on a big bus. So that's where I spent most of my time. It's great. I haven't been back since November. You know, I always said that after November I kept having dreams that I was on a bus and I couldn't figure out how to get off. But I'm getting over that now. So what a great, how awesome it is in Ohio and across the country that we have so many conservatives in office, right? Yes. So we can just like give up and go home, right? No. You know, I had a reporter call me the other day and he said, so do you think after the conservative sweep last fall that the Tea Parties are satisfied? And I said, well, that's kind of the point of Tea Parties and liberty organizations. We're never satisfied. And we're not going to be satisfied. We're going to keep watching and seeing what people are doing and what our elected officials are doing and holding them accountable. And so that's what I want to talk about tonight. I want to talk about the fact that there are a lot of things going on, both at the national level especially, that we need to watch and that we need to be active on. And there are some of the things that we don't necessarily hear about all the time. They're not necessarily in the forefront. One of them is the crazy, crazy way that we are now financing our debt. You guys have probably heard that we are buying our own bonds. People used to think that government bonds were a good investment, and they would invest long-term at low interest rates. But now, investors are saying, gee, to buy those bonds, I think we need a higher rate of interest. But the government thinks, well, we don't want our interest rates to go up, so what are we going to do? We're going to buy our own bonds. So I'm going to give a quick example of how crazy that is and what it's really like. That would be like, say, for example, I wanted to buy a house. So in this example, I'm the Treasury, my husband is the Fed, and the bank, that's a private investor. So I say, I want to buy a house, and I need to borrow $100,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bank and say, hey, give me $100,000. And they'll say, well, if we give you $100,000, we're going to charge you 10% interest. But if we only give you $50,000, we'll charge you 7% interest. So I say, okay, I'll take the $50,000 from you. And then I go to my husband, who's like the Fed, and I say, loan me $50,000. And he looks at me like I'm crazy and says, I don't have $50,000. And I say, that's okay, because in our basement, guess what I have? Anyone? A printing press. I have a printing press in our basement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print $50,000 and my husband's going to loan it to me, and then eventually I'll just forgive it. Okay, that is not only crazy in our household, that would be illegal. But the government, for some reason, can do it. And even though it's not illegal, it's definitely unwise. Because when they just print and print and print money, we all know what happens, right? What does it cause? Inflation, absolutely. One of the other things I want to talk about. Sure, thank you. This is one of the biggest threats, and something that's not talked about very often, the regulatory threat. Right after the election, during the transition team, President Obama actually had someone come up with ideas for how to get around Congress. So essentially what President Obama is doing is saying, let's forget the separation of powers in the Constitution, because I want to do what I want to do. So I am just going to do this all through regulations. As a matter of fact, someone from the EPA 2 years ago in Copenhagen at the United Nations Climate Change Conference was heard saying, we don't need Congress to pass cap and trade. We can do everything we want to through the EPA. We just want Congress to pass it so we'll have buy-in. So that's what they're trying to do. This is called Obamachart.com. It's at Obamachart.com. It looks confusing and it looks complicated. Well, that's what Obama's doing. He's doing confusing and complicated things, and we need to stop him. And if you go to this website and you click on these little bubbles, it'll tell you what he's doing, and it'll tell you things that we can do to take action to stop it. For example, the EPA is still trying to regulate carbon under the Clean Air Act. The author of the Clean Air Act said, this was never ever intended. Congress has tried to stop it. It hasn't been stopped yet. Internet regulation. They have something called net neutrality. They couldn't get it through Congress. So now what they're threatening to do, the courts have tried to stop them, Congress has tried to stop them. The FCC is saying, okay, the internet, it's a market failure. Who believes that the internet is a market failure? I mean, it's one of the great successes of the market, right? They're saying it's a market failure, so we need to regulate it like Mobile, like a public utility. Yet another crazy thing. Union card check. In this case, President Obama could not get it through Congress. So And so what he wanted to do was do it through the National Labor Relations Board. He wanted to appoint Craig Becker, and the Senate wouldn't do it. He put it before the Senate, and the Senate said no. So what did he do? He waited until the Senate went on recess. I think they went home for Easter, I think it was. And he appointed Craig Becker then. These are the kind of things that your president is doing to get around Congress and to get around the way that our government is supposed to work through the Constitution. I'll be quick because I know it's late, but if you go there, you can also read about what's going on in Obamacare and under financial regulations. These were both statutes, and what happened is, you know, Congress has delegated its power to agencies for so long that, you know, we're just used to that. And essentially now we have bureaucrats who are unelected who are legislating, and we need to stop it. For the regulations, there's something called a REINS Act, and it's been proposed both in the Senate and the House, and it would say that before any major regulation is enacted, that we have to have an affirmative vote of Congress approving it, which would create transparency and accountability. So these are things may not be as exciting to talk about as the budget, but they're things that are real threats both to our pocketbooks and to our liberties, because if we do not stop this, presidents, we might as well throw away separation of powers because the executive will be able to legislate. So please go to obamachart.com. Let's continue the fight. I know for many years people thought, great, we have conservatives in office, we don't have to watch them. I know, because you guys are here and you've stayed late, that you understand that we have to continue watching both at the state and the federal level. And I appreciate that. Thanks for joining in the fight for liberty.
Thank you, Rebecca, we sincerely appreciate your patience. She's got a long trip home and she waited very patiently. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we still have one more speaker for you tonight. And I'll tell you the truth, from what I hear, it might be best that he's last because he's the politician of the bunch. Although we might have heard from a few others tonight. And I understand he has so much to say that sometimes he doesn't know when to stop. So we've strategically placed him right here before you as the grand finale for this evening. Mr. Owens, are you ready? All right, he is a true American patriot, and he's not going to give up on defending this great country. It's Mr. Owens who's running for Attorney General, right? Or you did run?
Did run, yeah, that's right. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Thank you all so much for the wonderful support you showed to me and to our campaign. Know for certain that message is going to continue. You know, as we gather here today, April 15th, Tax Day, there are so many on the liberal left, those that are outside of our realm of politics, that think if we oppose the income tax, we must oppose all government. But that's simply not true. And remember, that big building in Washington, D.C. that they're sitting in to spend all our money, they built that sucker before the income tax. The White House, where Obama's busy burning through our money and creating deficits like we've never seen before, that building was built before the income tax. We do not need an income tax to have a reasonable level of government. And understand what we're talking about, because the United States is a very special country. We have a very different understanding of the role of government, because here in the United States, the deal is this, that our rights come from God. They don't come from government, they come from God. And government exists for this purpose, to protect those God-given rights. And as some of you may remember, government derives its powers from the people here in the United States. So contemplate this. If I personally do not have the right to go to my neighbor's house, decide that my neighbor has too many material goods, I couldn't just go pilfering this guy's house to redistribute them in poorer neighborhoods. And if I personally don't have that right, we cannot then give government the right to do the same thing. The income tax, thus, is immoral. It is antithetical to our Christian, biblical understanding of government and the Constitution. And so what I say is, we need to end the income tax and replace it with nothing. With absolutely nothing. Now, here again, we all understand that we live in a republic and not a democracy. And we understand what's going on with our country. And I think, hopefully for some of you, that will beg the question, how did we get this far removed from the foundations of what we are supposed to be as a nation? I will submit to you that this is not a function of some Marxian evolutionary history. It is not a function of a few good people making a few mistakes here and there that leads to a perhaps 20, perhaps $30 trillion deficit, maybe more. That there is, in fact, a specific concerted agenda to destroy our constitutional republic, to instill socialism. And the sooner that we understand that, the better off we are going to be able to fight it. So let's very briefly go back in history to understand where the income tax came from. It started, as many of you know, in 1913. And the father of it, the person that really put it together, was a fellow by the name of Edward Mandell House. And he was the right arm guy for Woodrow Wilson in 1913. Okay? Now, he wrote a book called Philip Drew Administrator. And just like today, the Obama administration and the rest of the radical liberals use the Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. Back in 1913, Philip Drew Administrator was that same blueprint for the liberal left. And what Edward Mandell House said is, first of all, we need to have a central bank. It's called the Federal Reserve. Now, here on tax day, we talk a lot about taxes, but one of the most forgotten taxes is perhaps the absolute worst tax. The tax nobody tells you about, it's called the inflation tax. And when the Federal Reserve is allowed to start printing money however they want with no congressional oversight, as is the case right now, that inflation tax is hitting you. Why is gas near $4 a gallon? Because our dollar's been destroyed by the Federal Reserve. Why are you paying outrageous prices for groceries? Because our dollar's been destroyed by the Federal Reserve. And so understand that if we can then identify those people that are pushing this, we'll have a better chance of fighting back. Now, Edward Mandell House, to really cement this system with the income tax and the Federal Reserve into play, they formed an organization called the Council on Foreign Relations. And hopefully some of you will have gotten some materials already. There's some gentlemen passing them out where you can get a little bit more information about the Council on Foreign Relations. If you truly, as a patriot, want to understand how to save our country, it starts by, one, knowing that we're supposed to be a republic and knowing what that means, and two, understanding the enemies of that system of government, which we can very clearly point to the Council on Foreign Relations for that understanding. There is a tremendous amount of power and influence that the forces of socialism have gained over us. But I think we have to understand that whenever God does things for his people, it is always done in such a way that things look so bleak that defeat seems imminent. And only for those of us that have faith in God to ride through and to remain faithful, right, will victory be had. And we've seen that time and again. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what I encourage you here today is know for certain victory is possible. Know for certain we can restore our Constitution. But know for certain only if we restore our Constitution will we have any hope for liberty for our children and for our grandchildren. That is the effort that we need to get going with. So understand these materials. jbs.org is a wonderful website where you can get some more information and go forward knowing that today it's not just about getting information, it's about getting ready to roll up your sleeves and get active, because that's how we're going to make a difference. God bless you, God bless Ohio, and God bless the United States of America.
Listen, you know I harassed him on his introduction, but the truth is this is a good man with a good heart, and he's got all the knowledge in the world when it comes to the Constitution and constitutional law. And as you can see, he clearly understands what is needed in order to restore the Great Republic. So, Mr. Owens, we wish you much success and luck in the future. Mr. Owens. Of course, they're all good men and women, good patriots, but he certainly has a passion for this country. Real quick, I want to announce our sponsors for tonight. We didn't get a chance to do this earlier, but our platinum sponsors, Kurt and Karen Masenko, True Value Hardware, Just Ask Rental, Brunswick provided the tent. We've got our McFan volunteers that you've seen all around with their blue shirts. We had several anonymous donors, sponsors for tonight's event. We also have several silver level donors. Cali Self Storage, Dennis and Kathy Connolly, Ken and Rebecca Garvey, Chuck and Janet Reno, Stephen and Cynthia Venezia. They were also silver sponsors. And we finally have an additional set of sponsors here that don't fall in any particular category, but Bill Jack Dog Food, the Liberty Ring, which was one of the prizes we gave away, Spencer Retirement Investment Services also helped us out, and Paul and Susan Becks. They also helped make tonight possible. And the truth of the matter is there is an expense to put on such an event, to get everything organized, and it was very gracious of Jim and the McFan organization to not pass the plate tonight. So if you can and you're willing, please don't hesitate to get them a donation. Now, we need, Ann, will you come up here real quick? This is another lady who has been very patient tonight, because I believe she came prepared to play several numbers for you, and of course you only heard 2 and maybe a little bit of warm-up. So, we need to make sure that you know that beautiful music that you heard, music with a meaning, a power, and a purpose. Anne Marie Harpin, you can get a copy of her CD over here under the tent, right? They're still out?
Yeah, they're still out there.
All right. Now, what did you think? Did she do a good job?
Thank you very much. I'm Medina. It's my first time here, and I love this town. It's great.
Absolutely. She's even sporting the shirt. She's one of our hometown friends and neighbors now. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, if you like what you heard, please make your way over and get a copy of her CD. And Jim, is